Okay, hello everybody. We're back for more Red Zona. So, as it looks, we have Starv right here. His portrait's now on the screen just for reference, but basically, he's much older than he appears much older than he actually is. Now, there's like a abandoned car right here. There's these two piles of wood, most likely burnt. We have two individuals standing behind this gate. There is this long fence that spans across this terrain, and there is this canyon with the river at the bottom. Basically, think a mini Grand Canyon. There is a structure here. There is a flagpole here. There is another car, most likely operational. There's a watchtower here with an individual. Obviously, this is not. Well, you know what? This individual is a sentry, an archer, based on his Pathfinder toke, this pawn. But I we can certainly mix primitive weapons with modern day. So maybe he does have a crossbow, or based on this image, or he has a long range weapon such as a rifle. But that's not too important right now. What is important is what exactly is Starv going to do. So, for context, this checkpoint is indeed the diehards. This is their main checkpoint. Further down east is their main headquarters. We've done a slight jump in time, not too much, perhaps a couple of hours of walking for Stark. He had some rations to supplement himself, and he actually did acquire. This is a slight story hack, but he did acquire clothing that resembles a diehard. So between the last episode and now, he dealt with perhaps a few stragglers of diehards and acquired their clothing. So he came out victorious. That was not recorded or anything. It's just something contextually that happened between the last episode and this one. And now he's disguised as a diehard using his D4 smarts. I gave him the opportunity to disguise himself and trying to convince potentially these individuals. So remember, he has a map that belongs to the diehards that details specific areas of interest, landmarks, and base of operations for the gang, the faction known as the diehards. So he has some knowledge of their whereabouts. Now, he obviously is coming here with an idea in mind, and that is to either make his way through without any disruptions or take them out. But the problem is he sees this watchtower. However, I have an idea here, but it's going to be implemented if the dice decide on it. Now, right now, Wolf is not too worried about being shot at by the sentry that he can clearly see. Now, based on the audio, there is no more rain. That storm has passed. It's just downfall. There's water runoff at the bottom of this canyon, and it's still your friendly neighborhood dry desert. So Wolf is going to approach this car, and kind of just detail what he sees. There is no dust. It's still midday. There is no real visibility issues. There's no obstructions to really see this giant fence that's most likely 8 to 10 feet tall, spanning across this terrain. So a couple of things we can do here. We can do a trait test for Star to see if he can notice anything unusual, any vantage points, with his notice roll that we recently purchased with points using a D4. And he does have his reset of 3 bennies. Or we can roll the dice and ask if something unusual happens. I have an idea, want to implement it, but only, like I said, if the dice calls for it. It's going to be a big 50-50. So think of this as a movie scene. We have Starv entering the frame, slowly walking, approaching that abandoned car. But the moment he approaches that car, 50% chance something unusual happens, or most likely expected because of the situation, the setting. That is a extreme, yes, which means I'm going to have a field day with this next twist. So as Wolf approaches this car, he sees these two members of Die Hard uh, behind that gate that is exposed. It's not a solid wall. It's not a solid door. Dealing with these three mutants that pop out of the sand, and they're called Morlocks. They're basically, like I said, this is collections from my Pathfinder pawn collection. They're dealing with these three mutant humans that are very short and slouching. They have these blunt weapons, and there's basically a squabble happening where Starv is surprised. He's like, "Wait, how did this happen?" But of course, kind of expected. This is a post-nuclear war world setting, very Fallout-esque. So again, surviving humans or anybody who was the victim of to survive this nuclear holocaust is going to be either normal by the setting standards or mutated to appear like a fantasy creature, thankfully on these tokens. So, which means we're going to have a little fun here. Starv is just watching this unfold as he sees these five individuals dealing with each other, fighting it out. Starv kind of steps back behind the car and observes. The archer, we need to know if he knows what's going on, if he actually is aware that his comrades are having a little interaction with some locals. Let's figure that out. I'm going to say 75% chance because, again, he's a sentry, he's up here, and he sees the entire landscape. But he might be distracted. He might be playing with an old Game Boy. We'll see. 75% chance. Uh, okay, I swear I'm shaking the dice. I'm not. That's an extreme yes. So, not only is he aware, that's a 2, he's actually firing his long-range weapon, whatever it may be, at these three golem-looking individuals, creatures. So the sentry is going to be uh, every member of the Die Hard is a D6, 6 toughness. Parry is still the target number 4 that I'm going to be continuing to use, the house rule. This difficulty is modified based on conditions. But these little golems are going to be measly D4s, so toughness of 4, parry of 4, attack of D4. So pretty pathetic. But again, I want to mention this in case anybody's watching this halfway through. Uh, their attack is typically coupled with another applicable die. So the weapon die will be another D6 or another D4 based on their strength. Okay, so let's actually have some fun here. I have this die right here to symbolize who goes first or whose turn it is. So what we'll do is roll 2d6. The blue Starv is not part of this. He does not. He wants to see what happens. This might actually help him. This might help him shave off the bandits, and he can deal not the bandits, the diehards, and then he can deal with the golems, or vice versa. The diehards deal with the golems, and then the Morlocks specifically, and then he can deal then with the diehards as a potential ally in disguise, as he currently has. But again, he's kneeling. He's behind the car and does not want to be seen by the archer. He wants to stay out of this scuffle while it ensues. So let's roll. Blue is going to be diehards. Red is going to be the monster, the mutants. And it's tie, which means I'm going to roll 2 more, and we'll re-roll the blue. Okay, so the reds, the mutants go first. We'll give it to this guy here. So he attacks this, not necessarily a pirate, just considering the visual. These are diehards. He's going to attack this gatekeeper. Perhaps we can consider her. We're going to roll the d4, and the blue will be the creatures. Or actually, you know what? Let's just stick with the villain, the enemy red. Okay, so the golem is attacking. 4 explodes, aces, and once again is going to be another d4. That is a 6, which hits the parry of 4, plus the attack is 2 d4s, toughness of 6, and that's going to be a miss. Okay, now it's this golem here. He's attacking this gatekeeper at his right in front of him near the gate. And we're rolling for attack. That's a 2. That's obviously not going to be enough for the parry even. Next is this remaining third mutant. That's a 3. That's not enough. That's short one of the parry. Okay, now we are on to the sentry. He's actually trying his best to take shot with his rifle, so he has a rifle, at this closest mutant. This guy is going to be a D4, but because he's an extra, he does not have a wild card to roll, a wild die to roll. 6 is a hit, and that's actually an ace. That's 10, so that's one raise taking out this creature here. So the scales have been tipped. Next is this diehard, who's going to deal with this closer mutant with, again, the D6. More of okay, that's a hit. Now we roll for damage of 2d6s. That's a 6 over the toughness of 4. That's going to be a shaking condition. The parry is going. Their toughness is 4 based on their die type. Okay. Next is going to be. Did she go? I completely lost track. So she's going to run up to this golem here and attack. 1 is a fail. And now it is back to the golems, this monster. The monster runs up, the mutant runs up to the diehard. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong die. We're only D4. Okay, 3 is not a hit, unfortunately. Next is going to be this. We have to do a shaken, a spirit roll. 3, yep, 3 is not enough. So I will let the mutant attack, but with a -1 penalty. 3, that's a 2, so that's a negative. Okay, the archer is kind of gets closer to the edge of his watchtower and shoots at this mutant right here with his D6. That's going to be a miss. Okay, next is her. I'll try to work my way this way so I don't lose track within literally a memory of a fish. So we're rolling for attack. She has a melee weapon. 6 is an ace. And that's going to be 8, which is 1 raise of a 4, plus killing this monster, that mutant there. Now we're to this final gatekeeper. He's going to attack with his blunt weapon. 6 is another ace. Another 8. Wow, pretty consistent roll today. Thus, that's going to be 1 raise, and he's already shaken, which means he has been defeated. Okay, so as as expected, because they were D4s, they clear out those annoying mutants, and the focus is back onto our nomad. So, using this opportunity, he knows they are shaken, not conditionally, but like they're obviously just post battle, so they're a little worn out. They're regrouping, and the archer actually abandons his post and runs up to the other 2 to check on them. So meanwhile, Starv is going to use this opportunity to approach the gate right there. Now, these 3 turn their heads to notice Starv, who is wearing die-hard clothing. And let's ask the Oracle, how do they react? I'm actually interested to see what the Oracle spits out. Let's do action and descriptor. So I'm going to re-roll the 10 die. 65. Leave, okay. I have an idea for that with a specific individual. 73. Leave perfect. Okay, so leave perfect. The leave is going to be the very action of one of the individuals we're looking at, and that's going to be the archer. The archer just checked on the team, and he's going to go back to his post. He just wanted to make sure they were okay with their fellow diehards, and he's back up here on the watchtower. Now, these 2, the perfect, I'm not too sure how to play on that. I'm going to re-roll and figure out another descriptor. 17. Dangerous. Okay, that actually is better, in my opinion. So these two become defensive. The archer's not aware just yet of, I'd say perhaps when he ran up and he checked on them, they were okay. He went back to his post. In that time, Starv approached the gates. So the archer, not just yet, but will be, at the moment, is not aware of Starv just yet. But these two see Starv. They draw their weapons at first to Starv's approach. Starv raises his hands. Now, Starv, you see his face on the camera there. He is the diehards know of his face based on the poster, which we still have in our inventory. But he has a scarf covering his lower face, his nose down to his mouth. He just has eyes showing. But he has the die-hard clothing, the official uniform. And it being the desert wasteland, it's expected for travelers, anybody walking the desert, to cover themselves to avoid getting dust and breathing in the excrement of the dust. So they kind of lower the weapons, but they approach the gate. She approaches the gate, and she says something specific that diehards are supposed to reply to. So she says she asks for the password. Starv, does he know the password? This is something that I didn't really plan ahead on. I want to be approach this as Starv and actually roll for it. So what we'll do is a first trait test for this episode, and Starv will be rolling for, let's say, knowledge, which is a d6 also. He has a d6 for knowledge. The password is unfortunately going to be unknown. He does not know the password. Neither of these hit the 4 as we were supposed to do. Starv does not. His eyes kind of dance a bit. He's not too sure what the password is. These two are doubtful. Now the archer, just using that as a nickname, sees Starv and has his gun scope on Starv, but the finger off the trigger. He's monitoring the situation. That's his job. No matter who approaches the gate, whether it's the actual boss of the diehards or some random snake, he has to keep an eye on the gates. He has to have the scope on whoever approaches. These two are doubtful. They look at each other and they actually walk away. The Starv did not actually answer. They start to talk to themselves, knowing that this. Okay, so I have a funny a twist here. They are talking among themselves. Starv is tapping his foot impatiently, and he's concerned that he just spoiled his disguise. He just spoiled his cover. But they come back at the door, at the gate, and we're going to ask the Oracle. Do they let him in? Because we've rolled 2 solid twice today, I'm going to give us a 10% chance they let him in. And if it's a yes, I have a very potentially funny, humorous reason as to why. So here we go. Okay, so that's a solid. That is an extreme no. The complete opposite of what I was hoping for, but again, 10% chance is very, very small. So let's see what they do. Let's do action. Maybe one action for now. PC player character. Okay, that is going to be Starv, obviously. But what happens to Starv? Feeble, deceit. Okay, so Starv actually is going to try. He's going to try something here. So before they approach the gate, Starv has an idea. And again, that Oracle question kind of is going to be directed at Starv. What he does is we probably can do. I don't think there is any skill in Savage Worlds. Let's take a look. That has to do with acting, or could be just persuasion, perhaps. But basically, he wants to lie and try to maybe make up an excuse as to why he doesn't know this supposed password. Because Starv, again, was kind of thinking on his feet, and he didn't come up with an answer when they asked him to come up with an answer. But looking at the skills here, anything that kind of resembles acting or persuasion, which there is a persuasion that's going to be a spirit-related role, but we don't have persuasion in our skill set, so this will have to be out of his usual library of skills. So let's go for it. He's going to do a D4, and what he's going to do is that he is trying to lie that he's new to the diehards and he forgot the password, but he's here to give a message for the main boss. He says it like that. He says the main boss. He wants to see the boss, and he's not exactly the best actor. So this will be a very, unfortunately, not a convincing role with a D6 wild die and his usual D4 of an unskilled roll with the -2 penalty. But we never know. It could ace, and he probably can convince at least one of these individuals. Like I said, the D4 aces. The 5 is actually, well, -2, so the wild die is disqualified. But the 4 ace, we have to get 6 to really have any effort. So 2 or more, come on. And there it is. Okay, so with an unskilled attempt of acting, uh, perhaps this actually does work. So I rolled a 4 and a 2, -2, that's a 4. And he's actually able to convince, albeit one of them, her, to let him through. She believes him that he forgot the password, but she's not going to let him see the boss. She's going to let him through, and that's it. So, bad call on her. She fell for it, but this guy did not. I'd say that roll, if we were to slightly hack what just happened, he was more talking to her. He is not convinced, but let's figure out if she's actually the boss of this general area, this responsibility. I'm going to say 75% chance she's the boss. Yep, she is. Okay, so she is in charge of this gate. She is the master gatekeeper, the head gatekeeper. The archer, again, he cannot hear what's going on. There's no microphone system. There's no speaker that he can hear, listen in. He is just seeing visually what is transpiring in front of him. So she lets in Wolf. Unfortunately, that was a bad call on her part. He enters, looking at both of them as he walks by. He doesn't do anything to spook them, specifically this guy right here. If he were to, that would be a bad move. So right now, Starv is officially within enemy lines, and he is acting as a spy, something that's not really in his wheelhouse. So what he needs to do is act like he is a diehard, but he doesn't have much knowledge about them. However, he has the map that he did study before doing any of this. Now, Starv is going to try some small talk with the two, just to kind of lighten the mood of trying to convince them a bit that like he does care. So he's going to talk to them and seeing the dead mutants in the area, which I always forget to do to label. Whenever a character dies, an extra, I'm going to try to mark them in red, little X's to mark where they were. And he says, he says, what the hell happened here? And these two, mainly her, she says, oh, we dealt with some damn mutants. They busted in, they dug their way through. And this guy does not answer. He has his weapon down, not drawn, but he has it down, and he's just kind of listening. The archer focuses back on the outside landscape area, does not have his scope on what's going on here. He closes the gate as Starv is chatting with the lady diehard. Now, Starv is not injured. We're not shaken. But what he does need is ammo. So one of the edges for Starv is Scavenger. I forgot about this in the last couple of videos. At the end of each session, which at the end of a session, it can kind of be a few episodes as a whole, depending on what really happens in that arc. We've reached a very monumental moment and the start of a whole new chapter for this very mini, well, it could span across a few more episodes, or at least 10. This one-shot taking place in this desert wasteland. But basically, Starv needs to ask for a restock, a refill of his inventory of weapon, of ammo. And she points to this little depot right here. So He walks away and approaches this building. She goes back to her post. The This guard, this gatekeeper, says he doesn't like that guy. She says you are too you are quit worrying about him. He's clearly new, and let's see if this individual, this diehard, is getting a little rebellious. Does the diehard recognize? This is a question of the Oracle. I was going to say a trait roll, but to be honest, we can just ask the Oracle. Does he recognize? Does he think that Starv looks familiar? I'm going to say 50-50 or 60% chance. That is a yes. Okay, not an extreme yes, but it's a mid. That's a practically almost mid-range yes. He says, "Don't you think he looks a little familiar?" And there is not really necessarily a wanted poster. Well, you know what? Another question: is there a wanted poster posted anywhere, literally in this area? 50-50. There is. Okay, so 230 rolls today. There is. There's a poster, perhaps on the. There's a poster board right here with a bunch of different wanted posters. So his face is kind of bunched in with a bunch of others. There's like dozens of other different, bandits, individuals, but they're all here. So they're talking among themselves about Starv, who just walked by, and he's basically saying he looks familiar. She says, "Don't worry about it. Uh, you're too focused on this guy. Let him by. He's clearly new." Starv is continuing, just hoping nothing goes wrong. Starv enters this little workshop, this depot. Is there anybody inside this depot? I'm going to roll 50-50. There is not. There's nobody inside. So he's currently inside by himself, about to restock. And here's what's going to happen. Starv, he is greedy, that's for sure. Is there any gold? Is there any caps? I'm going to say 75% chance there's caps in here. There is caps. Okay, so he steals 100 pieces of caps, which gives him 434 caps total at this moment of this game. So 434 caps, and he sees ammo, so he restocks his Desert Eagle, and he actually sees a rifle also. So the picture we're looking at on his profile is now relevant because that's a rifle on his back. So I'm going to look through the Savage Worlds list of weapons and then get back to you guys on which rifle I choose, without being obviously too courteous. All right, so I gave him a Spencer carbine, whatever that is. My knowledge of guns is practically non-existent. Now it's 20, 40, 80 on the three ranges, and it has a 2d8 similar to the Desert Eagle. So he has a weapon for close range to an extent, and he has a weapon for slightly longer range to an extent. Now, considering his hindrances, what would he do narratively as a character here? He's delusional. We haven't really had any occurrences to that matter, so we have to consider it. While he's in this depot, he starts to hear whispers around him. He is hearing her voice. Remember, it's minor; it's not a major hindrance. If it's major, he would see her in full view, talking to him with put his hand or hug him in the middle of nowhere, and then he would blink and she's gone. But it's minor. So he hears a shout from a distance, thinking it's his wife. He runs up to the window. There's a window. There's three windows. He runs up to the one on the far right and sees the archer here doing something with his weapon. But he hears a scream that resembles her scream, his wife's, his deceased wife's scream. And he sees again the archer is doing something odd. He's kind of like adjusting his strap, but he's turned around facing this way. His back is turned to the shop. He's adjusting his belt, like perhaps he's doing something, like he's kind of crouching down, leaning forward, fixing something in front of him. So he thinks delusional that this is actually he's like hurting someone, he's attacking someone, but he's kind of relating it to, oh, this guy is hurting my wife, my widow, who is obviously non-existent in the moment at this time, but he's doing something. So what Starv is going to do is going to shoot this. He's going to do it. This is a hindrance. It has to happen. He's going to shoot in the back this this archer. So remember, these two, at that while that's happening, while that scene's unfolding, this these two are settled their differences. They are back to their post. They have he has dropped the situation with not entirely dropped it. He's keeping his eye on the door, but he's not going to argue with his quote unquote boss. Now we have to take a shot at um, this watchtower, which is well within the distance of 20 feet, 20 inches. Yep. So, not necessarily 20 feet, but definitely within 20 inches. Now, I need to check something really quick here on those gun ranges because I want to make sure I'm doing it right. The weapons in this game have the ranges. Is that for feet, yards, or inches? I might be mistaken. I think because Spirit here says 3, 6, 12. And I don't know if that has to do with what it relates to, what method of measurement it is. But I'm going to say I'm not going to worry about it right now and just keep moving on. Now, let's get these dice off. I'm going to take a shot at this one. So his shooting die, he's kind of freaking out, not terribly, but he's bent on just taking out. He's also vengeful, so he knows the diehard's killed his wife, and thus this is a diehard. He's vengeful. That's a major hindrance. So that kind of does play on the delusional minor hindrance. The delusional minor hindrance is the extra kick that he needs for the major hindrance. That's the foundation for what is about to transpire. So the wild die and his shooting is a D8. So we're getting for that 4 target number. There's no difficulty. There's no modifier because this is a very close range. He is leaning forward, so perhaps a -1. Let's take that into account. There might be a railing in the way. But the D6 actually aces, and we'll do another one. 3. So that's 9. -1 is 8. That's 1 raise, which means the bullet hits and actually does. We will roll for damage. An extra D6 of damage. Okay? So the Spencer carbine is 2d8s for damage, which is right here. Okay? No wild die for damage. That's going to be his toughness is d6, so that's 4, 5. Oh yeah, that's right. Extra d6 damage. Almost forgot. Ooh, okay. So 4, 5, 6. That's shaken. We hit his toughness, and he got hit in the back of. Let's say he has some armor on, and he falls forward, collapsing. He's shaken, like literally shaken, also from the gunshot. So he takes a rifle to the back, his armor, and now this alerts these two. They're like, "What was that?" He obviously knows what's going on. He says, "You idiot! That was obviously him." They heard the gunshot coming from the building, so they're going to now. We're now in combat. That's really it. We're in combat. Remember, he isn't here. He's not off to the side. Just I don't want to block the obvious watchtower there. So we still have 3 bennies left, just to do a little benny check for you guys. And now let's roll for initiative using my method. I'll do the wild die too for our character. We go first. The blue is us. Okay, so he's going to take another shot at this. So he stood up and he's looking. Maybe he's crouching a bit. His head is. He's looking for who just fired that shot. As he stands up, sword in hand, he's going to do another shot at that individual, at the archer. That's going to be the shoot die of a D8 and the wild die of a D6. And the 4 hits. I did not apply modifier this time. I probably could have, but if he's disoriented, I'm giving that as a disadvantage for this guy. So the 4 barely hits. Now it's just going to roll for damage. If it's another shake, and these are extras, by the way, there's no wild cards besides us. The 8 aces, that's going to be current. Well, he's obviously wounded. That's we don't even have to do the math there. That's 12. I don't even have to ace that. So that's a clean shot. He's dead. So the archer falls off the side and collapses onto the ground. Thus, as I remembered, we have to do this. Circle will be human characters. X's without the circle I remember, are just creatures, monsters, really minor extras. Okay, now it's going to be the boss's turn. So this it will be on her. Her pace will be as a human 6. So she runs to the front door, opens it, and sees while that was happening, narratively timing wise, she runs into the building and sees, with her gun drawn, sees she yells, "You bastard! What are you doing?" And that's her free action. Starv is turning around in that time, but she opens fire, knowing that clearly he's the one who shot. They don't know that he died. Maybe he saw his comrade die, but she doesn't. She was busy running in. So she's going to open fire at Starv, who is going to be a d6 for shoot. That's a fail. That's a miss. Now it's going to be the more suspicious one, so that's within range. She's also this Starhard will get inside at the front door and will open fire without even asking questions or permission. So he rolls a d6. 4. Oh, that's ranged. I forgot ranged combat. Range attacks is 4. Okay, so okay, I might have forgot that the last one. Again, my memory is not working today. So he hits Starv. Parry is strictly is for melee combat, close range. So he hits the d6 and another d6 for the gun. That's going to be a fail because our toughness is 8. All right, now it's back to Starv. Starv pulls out his Desert Eagle and fires at her first because she was at the doorway first. And that'll be a d8 and a wild die d6. Rolling for attack. Oh, okay, so the wild die ace is once again. That's going to be 9, which over the 4 target number, which is for shooting, that's 1 raise, so that's an extra d6 damage. Thus, we roll for damage now, and that's going to be 2 d8s plus a d6. All right, so that's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She's her toughness is 6. That's 1 raise. She's wounded, so that's an extra. She's been taken out. Now it's him. He's going to step back as he hides behind, and going to maybe just thematically reload. So that's all he's going to do for the action. Starv is going to slowly walk up, jump out all cinematically onto his side like a goalie would catching a ball and catching a block, and fire at the but this will be a running, so we'll do a negative 1 on this roll, I think. Running, I think, is either 1 or 2. I'm going to do 1 for now, but he is shooting, so that's a d8 and the wild die -1. Let's see, that's going to be -1. Neither of those, but he's going to spend a Benny to re-roll that, and we'll roll again. Okay, so 7 is a hit with that 4 we're going for, and that's a hit. So now we roll for damage. If it was an 8, it would have been a raise. Damage is going to be 2d8, so a regular damage count. Okay, so 6 plus the 5, that's going to be 11. So his toughness is 6. That's 1 raise, thus it is a wound. And he is out of combat. Thus, combat is over. Starv is victorious, and he's now going to loot them. However, while that has been happening, has anybody else shown up? 15% chance. Nope. Okay, so he's in the clear. So he's going to loot these first 2 at the front door. We'll move them over just a hair. So X, that's a dead human right there, another one, and the 3 there. So he's going to loot, I think, her first, and she has the following. Let's say 10 gold pieces. I'll bump them up to 434 or 444. and she has the following item. Now, this is a spirit guide, so that's obviously not going to be, oh my gosh, it's a crow. Okay, so the crow was a fear of wolf from my other campaign, the what's it called, Shadow something Dark Side. I completely forgot. Now that's going to be one of the spears, but I don't really see how this can pertain to what Starv is doing. So I'm going to draw another card, and it's a smoke pipe. He ignores it. Maybe she's a smoker. All right, he goes to the next one. This other guy does not have any caps on him. I said gold earlier. I meant caps. And he has some moss. Maybe it's just expired food. Really, these two don't have anything much on them, and nothing really worth taking as far as weapons. So, Starv is going to drag their bodies inside into the building. And he's going to run over here to see what he had. And he had a similar weapon. He also had a carbine, Spencer carbine, whatever it's called, from Spencer's Gifts. And he had this, Goon Grass. Now, this item, how to convert it to, maybe it's some herbs. So something to eat. I'm going to say it's just another ration that he can take for himself. Okay, but the weapon had a scope on on that carbine. So if that's even possible, but whatever. The scope is hacked into the weapon itself, meaning that it will give him. I'm going to give him a scope, which will give a +1 on shooting. So shooting +1, if I remember this. There we go. If he uses that scope, only qualifies for the carbine. I might forget this from time to time. I cannot guarantee anything, but he has finished looting this individual, and that's going to be it for this video. So, hope you guys enjoyed. This was a fun one. We had a little, extra on extra action, and then Wolf, Starv, I kept saying Wolf, Starv dealt with had a skilled success, unskilled success, getting in here, getting a gun, shooting this one because of his hindrances, and then eventually taking out the other two. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.